Hello, welcome to Scheduling Administrator Training. This is a training guide for the Scheduling Systems Administrator. It's going to assist them on how to navigate the scheduling system and complete the scheduling template for their site. I'm joined by my colleagues, Jamie Trope, Kamal Singh, Karabo Madibana, and I'm Vongai Marabwa, and we are working together with the National Department of Health to facilitate training and site readiness for the vaccine rollout. I'm going to hand over to my colleagues soon to take you through a welcome and some session objectives. We're going to then move on to why scheduling is important, cover a bit of theory and some information that you need to know before you start completing your scheduling template. Then we'll go into a demo of the scheduling system itself, and we'll end off with some information on how to request access to the scheduling administrator system, as well as how to get support and support and assistance through the service desk and through the various other training materials and cheat sheets, etc. This morning, I'm going to this training is also accompanied by a training guide that you can see on the screen, and you can access this on the His Support website, and you should be able to use that to follow along as you go through the training. Thanks. Kamal, over to you.
Thanks, Vangai. Good morning, good day to everyone on the call. So I'm just going to take you through the Welcoming to Scheduling Administrator training. So this training guide is for scheduling system administrators to guide you, basically the scheduling administrator, on how to navigate the scheduling system, as well as to complete the scheduling template for your site. So the agenda for today is as follows. So the topics for today will be welcome and session objectives. Second one will be why scheduling is important, and during this we'll address various challenges addressed by the scheduling system, as well as to understand your specific role as a scheduling administrator. There'll be a scheduling system overview, which is basically a walkthrough of the scheduling system and how you can use it. Then there'll be a scheduling system demo, which will be a live demo of the scheduling system, basically to provide you guidance on how to populate your scheduling template. Then towards the end, we'll show you how you can request access to the scheduling system, as well as to access the support content on the support channels. And towards the end, there'll be a Q&A session. And there's a bit of appendix which explains the site go live process, as well as the support for go live. Go to the next slide. So before we continue, there are some ground rules. So the first one is we do encourage that we engage with one another. Please note that the session is timed, and we understand there's time constraints, so we'll try and keep within the time that we are scheduled for. As I mentioned, we do encourage engaging one another, but please remember to respect and listen to each other's points of views, as well as any questions that may arise. Some virtual ground rules. Please note the mute button, so please be on mute throughout the session, as well as to make sure that your camera is off. This is just to prevent any echoes or noise disruption, as well as to increase bandwidth. With regards to questions, as I mentioned, best efforts will be made to address the questions at the end of the demo during the Q&A session. If you do have any questions, please note them down and hold on to them and until the end of the presentation, so that we can get through the demo first. And then any questions that are not answered during the session will be answered through an FAQ document, as well as distributed through the His Support channel. As I mentioned, participation is important, and we do understand that there may be connectivity and work-related issues, but please try and be present for the entirety of the session, and please be engaged with us. Please note, try not to take any other calls or check your emails or use any other applications during the session, as your full attention is required to get through the Scheduling Administrator training module. Going to the next slide. So this talks about the objectives for today's session. So the first one is the scheduling overview. So the scheduling overview provides an overview of the scheduling system, as well as to demonstrate your role within the system. There's knowledge and skills. So we best provide you with the skills and knowledge to confidently interact with the scheduling system, thus enabling you to complete what is expected of you. Support. Please note that there is post-training support that can be accessed through the His Support channel. There's a Q&A session, So during this Q&A session, we'll provide you with opportunity to raise any questions that you may have regarding the scheduling system and how to operate it. And there's a few links that will be shared as well at the end of this deck, where you can basically input your feedback in terms of the training session, as well as a quiz link just to get an understanding of your knowledge of the scheduling administrator system and whether you understood this training session. So what is scheduling and why is it important? So scheduling is a key component of the system. So there's 3 areas of the scheduling system. So one of it is an appointment-based roster. This is based on the active vaccination site's capacity to vaccinate. And this is driven by the number of vaccines plus vaccinators on site. Please note this is based on a rolling 14-day roster for single doses or first doses. And second doses are auto-scheduled approximately 42 days after the first dose is administered. The second part of scheduling is it's based on appointment allocations, which is done on a first registered, first scheduled basis for eligible people. So those that have registered on the Evds system and those with eligible vaccine codes to the above mentioned roster, which is these 2 points. The third part is very key. So the scheduling system helps with the automated SMS messaging that is sent to the vaccinees, which have been allocated a slot, just to be present at the facility at their scheduled time and place. So this slide will explain to you the purpose of the scheduling system, as well as your role as an administrator. So the scheduling system has been designed to empower scheduling administrators to match and control their daily site vaccination capacity to the demand of vaccines, so the number of vaccinees daily. What is the scheduling system? So the scheduling system is a data-driven approach to centralized scheduling, and it matches based on the vaccine allocation with the vaccine capacity, as well as the vaccination roster, which is shown on the previous slide. Please note that this is customizable per site to accommodate for various site requirements, which enables autonomy while still providing a central governance and guidelines. So we'll just address some of the challenges being addressed by the scheduling system. So the big one is we try to address the large numbers that don't social distance. So the scheduling system helps with that and controls the super spread events, as well as with the required scheduling time and place of your vaccination. The scheduling system also helps with the vaccination spoilage from too many or no shows, as it is empty queues equals wasted time and also possible vaccination waste. The scheduling system also deals with competing scheduling processes. So this is for both public and private. So we try and provide a form of central governance for this perspective, as well as the incomplete vaccinations. So people not returning for the sensitive second vaccination dose. So what is your role as a scheduling administrator? So a scheduling administrator's role is to basically continuously review the site's capacity and availability on the scheduling system, as well as updating the template as required. This includes sending out communications to schedule vaccinees under circumstances. For example, if the site is shut down or does not have capacity to accommodate them as originally scheduled. For example, lack of staff members or lack of vaccinators, as well as stock management is under strain at the particular facility. So a scheduling administrator will have that ability to send out the communications. So this slide talks to you about the overview of steps that you will follow as a scheduling administrator. So the process flow that will be followed by a scheduling administrator is as follows. So we'll talk about the frequency. We'll start off at once a week. So once a week as a scheduling administrator, you will gather inputs for your site. This includes the site operating days and hours. This includes the number of vaccinators available each day. You have to confirm your site's planned vaccine supply from a provincial or district or pharmaceutical leads, the number of outreach vaccines being done from your site, as well as your site's capacity to accept walk-ins. Please note, every time you access the system, you need to log into the scheduling and registering system using the username and password that has been provided to you. Once a week, please remember to view the number of vaccine appointments in the program cascade or site summary. This is done prior to setting up the template. So if your site is currently not scheduling, the cascade will be blank. And if your site is currently scheduling, your cascade should be filled and be able to view the number of vaccine appointments. Please note, no later than every Wednesday of the preceding week, you need to ensure that you update and approve the following week's schedule. So every time you set the template end date, which is the end of the national vaccine rollout, which is the end of the 28th of February, 2022, or if your site closes before that date, whichever comes first. Every Wednesday, please remember to approve your updated scheduling template. Every 2 days, please remember to review your live schedule, just to make sure that you're aware of the expected numbers on site. And once a week, please remember to review your programming cascade. Just going to pause here for a minute or two. Just going to ask if there are any questions. Okay, there's no questions, I believe. So I'm just going to continue on to the slide. So the next few slides will cover what would be in the NDOH EVDS scheduling module. So section 1 is the vaccine journey and the automated SMS communication workflows. Section 2 is information requirement for each vaccination site. Section 3 is how to update and review your scheduling template. Section 4, reviewing your live schedule. Section 5, reviewing your program cascade or appointment schedule. And Section 6 is how to request access to the scheduling system. So this information is basically the scheduling information to be captured for each vaccination site. I'll go on to the next slide to show you. So before we continue to that slide, we'll talk about the Vaccinate Journey and the automated Evds enrollment system, how the vaccinee receives their SMSs. Please note that SMS communication is sent out to registered vaccinees. So the registered vaccinees either self-register through the various channels such as USSD, WhatsApp, or through the web application, or through on-site registration on the Evds enrollment system. Once a vaccinee has successfully registered onto the system, we go into the first step, where they'll receive an SMS confirming successful registration of the vaccinee on the Evds enrollment system. This particular box above explains a generic SMS that will be sent out. For example, Dear Kumal Singh, you have successfully registered on the National Department of Health Electronic Vaccine Data System on the particular date, and you'll be contacted via SMS regarding the next steps. Once you receive the SMS, this is where the scheduling module kicks in and allocates the registered vaccinee to a vaccination site. This is dependent on various business rules that are built in, and once those business rules have been matched, the vaccinee should receive a second SMS communicating the appointment date, time, and place for the first dose of vaccination. For example, hi Kumal Singh, you have been scheduled for vaccination on the 13th of August 2021 at Midrand Clinic, for example. Please bring your vaccine code. There'll be a vaccine code as well as your ID or passport to the vaccination site. And if you're a member of a medical aid, you must please bring your medical aid, as well as if you have any queries, you may contact the COVID-19 hotline on the number below here. Once the vaccinee has received their first vaccination, they'll receive a third SMS. This SMS is basically confirming the completion of the first dose of vaccination. And this will be an example again. Dear Kumal Singh, you have received your first of two vaccination doses, sorry. And that will be the 13th of August 2021 at the Midrand Clinic. And this will basically also provide your proof of vaccination, which will be a vaccination code. Please note that the vaccinee will have to keep this safe, as well as to verify their vaccination status, and as well as confirming that they will receive a second dose appointment SMS shortly. This is done after 42 days, so closer to the time the vaccinee should receive an SMS confirming the second dose appointment, date, time, and place as well. And then from there, it will mention, hi, Kumal Singh, for example. You have been scheduled for your second dose vaccination on the 13th of August, sorry, 13th. Let's put it as the 14th of September 2021 at Midrand Clinic, as well as to please bring your vaccine code and your ID passport to the vaccination site. And again, if you're a medical aid member, you must bring your medical aid card. And if you have any queries regarding this, you are able to contact the COVID-19 hotline on this particular number. Once your second dose is administered, you receive a 5th SMS confirming completion of the vaccination treatment, as well as a vaccination proof code will be sent to you and advice on side effects, self-monitoring, and reporting. The first SMS will basically confirm that you have received your second of 2 vaccination doses, as well as your proof of vaccination code, as well as a message confirming that you have now completed your vaccination. And the second one basically explains that if you're experiencing any symptoms after the vaccinations, you'll basically be able to communicate through the COVID-19 toll-free hotline on any adverse effects, as well as to report it by the Med Safety app using this link, or you can directly email the health department through this email. Continue to the next slide. Okay. From these slides onwards, we'll talk about how to set up the site scheduling template. Please note that you'll need to update these 4 categories of information for your site in order to complete the scheduling template. So the first one is the scheduling start date. So this is the first date that your site is scheduling. The second one is the scheduling end date. Please note to always set this to the end of the national vaccine rollout, as I mentioned before. And this is the 28th of February 2022. Site closure date, whichever comes first.
Oh, we've lost your sound after you told us about the start date.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sorry about that. I think it's some connectivity issues on my side. Can you hear me now loud and clear, attendees?
Yes.
Sure. Just going to continue from the second point here again. So we'll talk about the scheduling end date. So the scheduling end date is always set to the end of the national vaccine rollout, which I mentioned before was the 28th of February 2022, or when the site closes, the site closure date, whichever comes first. Okay. The third point is the total capacity. So the total capacity is the maximum number of vaccinations that the site can administer each day. Please note you'll input this daily capacity in 2-hour time slots, for example, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, etc. And the next few slides will basically provide guidance on how you can calculate this for your sites. The fourth one is a scheduled capacity percentage. So this is the percentage of total capacity. For example, only 80% only schedule 80% of the total capacity, leaving the remaining 20% of your site's capacity available for those that are not registered in the system for unscheduled walk-ins. Go into the next slide. So this slide talks to you about how you can calculate your site's total capacity. So generally, one vaccinator can administer an average of 5 vaccines per hour. This is based on the Sosonke trial that has occurred at the beginning of the year. If a site has 10 vaccinators available for all 8 hours, which is the site operating hours, and the scheduling percentage of 80%, then the site's maximum daily capacity can be calculated as follows. So we can calculate the hourly capacity. So the hour capacity is 10 vaccinators times 5 vaccines per hour equals 50 vaccinations per hour. If you calculate the capacity in the 2 hours time slots, as I mentioned before, that'll be 50 vaccinations per hour times 2 hours, which is a 2-hour time slot, and that gives us a total of 100. So that 100 is 100 vaccinations per 2-hour time slot, for example, 8 to 10. The third one is a total or maximum daily capacity. So that's 50 vaccinations per hour times 8 hours, which is the site operating hours, which is 8 to 4. And that gives us a total site daily capacity of 400 or 400 vaccinations per day. Fourth one is scheduled daily capacity. So we can calculate the scheduled daily capacity as follows. So through the 400 vaccinations per day, times the 80%, which is the scheduling percentage at your site. That gives us a total of 320. So that's the total site schedule capacity per day, or the maximum number of appointments that will be allocated to your site by the Evds system. Please note the site's maximum daily capacity is approximately 400 vaccinations. However, the scheduling system will only book 320 appointments, which is 80% of the site's scheduling capacity, and leave the remaining 80 appointments available to accommodate for various walk-ins or outreach programs that may occur at the facility or site. So this slide is very important for you to know as a scheduling administrator, and this talks about the inputs that you'll be required to input onto the system. The first one is the vaccination site operating hours. This is, for example, 8 to 4. The second one is the total or max daily vaccination capacity. This is based on the number of vaccinations per day. The third one is the scheduling capacity percentage. This is the percentage of a site's maximum capacity that should be allocated to vaccinees with appointments. So let's go with a little scenario. This is vaccination site A. So the first point is the vaccination site operating hours, which is 8 hours, which occurs from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. The second one is the total or maximum capacity, which is calculated of 400 vaccines per day. This is based on the fact that there are 10 vaccinators available at your site to administer the vaccines. The third one is the scheduled capacity, which equals 80%. This is the percentage of a site's max capacity that should be allocated to vaccinees with appointments that are registered through the Evds system. If the scheduling administrator chooses to allocate 80% of the capacity to the scheduled vaccinees, so those that are registered on the Evds system, then the system will schedule 320 vaccinees, which is 80% of that 400 total of the maximum capacity for the site that particular day, and the remaining 80% will be catered in for walk-ins, or if your site is running any outreach programs. And in a 2-hour time slot, for example, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., there will be 80 scheduled vaccinees and a space for 20 unscheduled walk-ins. So the total daily capacity is calculated based on assumption that on average, one vaccinator can administer an average of 5 vaccines an hour. As I mentioned before, that is based on the Sasonke trial. If a site has 10 vaccinators available for all 8 hours that the site is open, then the site's maximum capacity is 400 vaccinations. So we'll go to the calculations again. So that's equal to 10 vaccinators on site times the 5 vaccines that they're able to administer per hour each. That gives us a value of 50 vaccinations per hour. We take the 50 vaccinations that can be done per hour, times it by 8 hours, which is the site operating hours, and that will give us a total of 400 vaccines, which is the site maximum capacity for the day. Please note the outputs of the capacity calculation for each site for each day is per 2-hour time slot, and that becomes the input for the scheduling template, which will be shown to you in the next few slides. Okay, before I continue, are there any questions? Before I continue to the quiz?
Hi, Kamal. It's Jamie here. I've got a quick question. So I just
Jamie.
wanted to confirm the scheduled capacity percentage is set at 80%. That is done, from my understanding, to allow for to accommodate for walk-in. Is that 80% set, or can that be adjusted?
Thanks, Steph, Jamie. So that can be adjusted according to your site requirements, as well as the ability for your site to administer the capacity of your site. Sorry.
Fantastic.
Guys, do you have anything to add to that? Sorry, Jamie.
No, I have another question, or rather a scenario, and it's just to say, what happens if I'm doing outreach on an ad hoc basis and I don't know which days or how many vaccines I want to do? How do I incorporate that into my scheduling percentage? Does that then have any kind of an impact, or what's the story?
That is a very good question. Can I ask one of my colleagues on the call to answer that, if they may have the answer?
So I think you'd mentioned something about if you wouldn't mind going back to where you talked about the scheduling percentage. I think you talked about saying that the 20% that was left over in your example here for unscheduled walk-ins could cater for outreach or it could cater for walk-ins. I think what you can do is, if you know that you want to do outreach every Tuesday and Thursday, what you can do is set up a separate outreach, a mobile outreach site, so to speak, on MFL, and then from there you won't need to actually schedule those vaccines into your fixed site scheduling template. You can just funnel those all the way through to the mobile site and exclude them from this calculation. Similarly, if you don't know the cadence of your outreach, then you can also then it's also recommended to set up that mobile outreach on the MFL, and then that vehicle can then be used to conduct the outreach vaccines, and then you won't have to account for them in your fixed sites template. I don't know if that makes sense. Colleagues, would you like to add or clarify?
No, sure, Vangai. I think that makes perfect sense, and I hope that answers the question.
Kamal, I just have two more quick further questions, if that's all right.
Sure, go ahead, Jamie.
The first question is related to the operating hours. I can see here it is set at from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. The first question is, can those hours be adjusted or extended to, for example, 6 p.m.? So, for example, from 10 to 6. And the second question relates to all these various inputs. So the operating hours, the vaccination capacity, and the scheduling capacity percentage. Do we have to manually calculate these inputs and put into the system, or the system calculates it for us?
Good question there, Jamie. So once you input on the template, which will be taken through in the demo, the vaccination site operating hours. So for example, you mentioned from 8 to 6 p.m., right? That can be done on the system. Then from there, the system will automatically calculate that for you, for these values, the total max daily vaccination capacity, as well as the scheduling capacity percentage, which we done on the template on the demo. So that will guide you further on how to proceed with that.
Thank you, Kamal.
Sure. Don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that.
No, maybe just to say if your site is, of course, we're operating for sort of more than the 8 hours from 8 to 4, then it's just be mindful when you're calculating your capacity, excuse me, per time slot, that you'll probably have more capacity than a site that would have just used 8 hours, and you'd probably be using 10 or something to that effect, depending on your operating hours.
Thanks for that one, Guy. Are there any further questions before I continue? Okay, so I'll continue now to the quiz. Okay, please note that there will be a link on this document that will explain the quiz. So as a scheduling administrator, just to get an understanding, and if you're understanding the training, then you can go through that. Please note that the quiz is not graded. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to the demo, which I'll hand over to Labo. Labo, over to you.
Thank you, Kamal.
Stop sharing and you can present your screen, Karabo.
All right, thanks. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. I can see your screen.
Thank you. So this is the scheduling platform. So when you use the link that will be sent to you, it will lead you to this website here. And at which point you will see the sign in page. There's an option for you to enter your number and a password. The password, if it's your first time accessing the system, will be the OTP that will be sent to you in the SMS. You're going to enter your number and the OTP, and then you proceed to set a new password that only you will know and remember. Do not share this password. It should only be known by you and no one else. There's also an option here to recover your password should you forget it. What's going to happen is that when you click on that option there, there'll be a process which will involve you entering your number, and an SMS will be sent to you for you to reset your password. So what we're going to do now is proceed to log in. So we're going to enter the number. Please note that when you enter your number, it should be it should be 27 rather, and not 0 or not +27, just 27, then the rest of your number. That's how it should be entered. Then you enter your password.
Karabo, I have a question. How do I get the login information in the site?
So you, if you have been successfully registered as a scheduling administrator, you'll be sent an SMS, and that SMS will contain a link to the site. And in that SMS, there'll also be an OTP that you will use to log into the platform. So that's how you get access to the site.
Okay, and how do I become registered?
So the registration process is as follows. You fill out an SOP 002 form, and then after you filled it in and made sure that all the details are filled in correctly, you submit this to your relevant stream lead. There should be a slide in the presentation deck that outlines the various stream leads for the different sectors. So you submit this to your stream lead, then they will submit that form to sop@health.gov.za. If the process is not done that way, you will not be given access to the system. If you circumvent any of these processes, you will not be able to get access to the scheduling platform. So again, you fill in the SOP 002 form and you hand it over to a stream lead, and they will submit it on your behalf, from at which point you will become registered, should all your details be filled in correctly. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to log in. So you're going to click on sign in. Okay. So we're going to try that again. The demo instance has issues from time to time. There we go. Right. So this is the landing page after you've inputted all the correct information in the login phase. The page has the current role, the location. It also has a refresh button there that you select after you've specified all the appropriate positions. So for example, here, the correct role there should be scheduling administrator. Make sure that you've selected the correct scheduling role. Then after the correct role rather, then after you've selected the role, you click on the refresh button here towards the left. At which point you'll have an option here to select the module or the scheduling module that you'll be working from. So then we're going to proceed to click on select on scheduling module. And then we're going to click the program that we're working from. It should be the National Vaccine Program Rollout. So we're going to click select on that. Then when we get to this phase, we specify the facility we're scheduling for. Some people might have multiple facilities attached to their profile. So in this case, we're going to use Damoi GP as our facility for this example. Then we're going to click that, and then let's just refresh there just to make sure that our option has been selected. Then after you've done that, you proceed towards the top right there. There's a schedule button. We click on that. And then we will end up here at the program schedule page where we will have, we will start setting up our template. But before we start doing that, I just want to pause here for a moment and see if there are any questions on anything that we've done up to this point.
I don't see any questions in the chat.
There's a question.
What happens if I can't find my facility?
That is a good question. I would like to ask one of the colleagues on the call to help with that question.
So I think it's probably a case of you have to contact your stream lead and let them know that the facility is not showing, your facility is not showing up, and then at the same time log a ticket on the log a ticket through his support query email address to get some assistance with that, so that the technical team can troubleshoot and make sure that they've linked your facility appropriately.
That sounds sufficient. Thank you, Vangai, for providing that clarity. Are there any other questions? In that case, we can proceed. So on the program schedule page, we have a couple of things. We have facility, which is the name of the facility that we'll be scheduling for. Then we have schedule there. Currently, it sits at 0 because we haven't actually scheduled anything. And we have not scheduled there, which is blank. Then we are going to go ahead and set up our schedule template. So we're going to click on schedule template, or set up schedule template rather. All right, then it will bring you to this view here. And there's multiple things in this view here. Again, it's the facility. It is the scheduling start date, which is the date on which you intend on starting your scheduling, your vaccination program. And then there's the scheduling date, which should be the end of the vaccination program, which is in February next year. Or if you're going to end before that, it should be the last day your site intends on carrying out its last vaccinations. So it can be one of those two things. There's also a scheduling percentage, which again is determined by how much your site wants to allocate to walk-ins and outreach programs. So if your site intends on having a huge outreach program, your scheduling percentage will probably be slightly lower. So we're gonna go.
Can I just step in there? That scheduling percentage, it's in terms of the outreach, it's only in an instance where you're having a once-off outreach and you're not doing repetitive outreach scheduling. If you're sorry, repetitive outreach vaccinations from your site. If you're planning to do outreach vaccinations on a regular basis, then you need to set up a separate mobile outreach facility, so to speak, on the MFL platform that's linked to your site, so that you can funnel the vaccinations through there. Otherwise, the scheduling percentage, the unscheduled capacity is really just reserved more so for walk-ins and a once-off outreach program, so to speak.
Thank you, Vangai, for that insight. So now we're going to go ahead and edit this and input all the relevant information in there. Now, again, the scheduling start date has already been put in there, and that's the 10th of August. And then we have the scheduling end date, which we'll put as, for this example, as February next year. So now go ahead. That is the scheduling end date. And then we're going to leave the scheduling percentage at 80%. It can be adjusted, however. But for now, we're going to leave it at 80%. And once you're happy with all of the information that you've inputted in here, you're going to go ahead and click on Save. And now we're ready to start scheduling. But before we do, there's a few fields here in this template days table. So I'm just going to explain them. Obviously we have the days of the week, which has all the 7 days of the week, and then we have total capacity per day, which is just the amount that the site can actually vaccinate. This includes both scheduled and unscheduled vaccinations. And then you have total scheduled capacity per day, which is just the capacity that you can do for scheduled individuals. So individuals that have actually booked, registered on the Evds system to be allocated appointments. So now we're ready to start setting up our schedule template. We're going to go into the first day of the week, which is Monday. We're going to click on view here on the far left. Once you're into Monday, it'll bring up this view here, and it has all the time slots, the start hour and the end hour of all the different time slots. It has total capacity per day, per slot rather, which is just the capacity that you can vaccinate in that 2-hour time slot. It also has total scheduled capacity per slot, which is the scheduled capacity that you can do in that time slot. So to start populating these various time slots, we simply go to the far left and click on edit. This brings up this view here. Those inputs that were spoken of earlier in the presentation, this is where you use them. So after you've calculated how many vaccinators that you have on your site and how many vaccinations they can do per hour, you simply come and input that here. So I'm going to use the example that was used in the training earlier, where the capacity was calculated to be 100 in a 2-hour time slot. This is under the assumption that you have 10 vaccinators and each of them can do 5 vaccinations per hour. And when you multiply that by the 2-hour time slot, you end up with the number 100. There's an option here to apply capacity to all days for this time. Now, when you click on this option, what it will do is it will populate the capacity of 100 for every day between 8 and 10. So if you do this, it'll save you time in the sense that you don't have to actually input the capacity between 8 and 10 on every individual day. Now, you should only do this if you have visibility of how your capacity is going to be for the rest of that week. But if you are not sure that the capacity will stay constant throughout the week, you don't have to click on this option. So for this example, I'm going to click on this option. Later I will also demonstrate when it is not appropriate to click on this option. But for now, we'll click on save. And as you can see there, we have populated the 8 to 10 time slot, and the capacity there's 100, with scheduled capacity being 80. We're going to go into the next time slot, which is 10 to 12, and do the same thing again. Input the capacity of 100, and apply capacity there to all days for this time, and we're going to save. And then we have the next time slot, which is 12 to 2. Now for this time slot, this might be the time when people usually take off for lunch. So you might want to lower your capacity there so that you actually aren't overwhelmed when numbers come in and you don't have enough people on hand to actually vaccinate them. So let's just lower capacity to 80 there. And again, because you know that people are going to take lunch at the same time, more or less every day, you can go ahead and apply this capacity to all days for that time. So that means that between 12 and 2 every day, you can only vaccinate about 80 people. We're going to click on save. And then we're going to go into the last time slot. And now the capacity is going to be back to what it originally was, which is 100, because everyone's back. And we're going to apply capacity to all days for that time as well. Now we have successfully populated the template for Monday. All the time slots have been populated. So once you're done here, you're gonna go back and you're gonna go click on show all scheduled days here at the top, and this view will take you back to your view for all the days of the week. As you can see, what happened is all the days of the week have been populated because at every instance, we were clicking on apply capacity to all days during this time. However, there might be an instance where your site doesn't actually open on Saturdays and Sundays, or you're open partially on Saturdays and not open at all on Sundays. So you have to go and edit that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on Saturday and make the assumption that on Saturday we're only open for about 4 hours, which is 8 to 12. So that means that for the remainder of the day, you don't have to have schedule capacity there. So what you're going to do is you're going to go and edit and set capacity between 12 and 2 at 0 on a Saturday. But now we're not going to click on apply capacity to all days for this time, because if we do this, it will basically put 0 every day between 12 and 2, which is not what we want. We just want this specific day and this specific time slot to be 0, nothing else. So we're going to go click on save. We're going to do the same thing for the next time slot. Click 0 there. Then we're going to save. Now, as you can see, we're only scheduling from 8 to 12, and beyond that, we are closed. So once you're happy with that, you're going to go back to show all scheduled days. And we're going to edit Sunday now, because remember in our example, we said our site isn't open on Sunday. So we shouldn't have any capacity there at all. You're going to go on Sunday and you're going to click view, go to all the time slots and set capacity to 0. Again, I want to emphasize that when you're doing this for individual days, you don't want to apply capacity to all days for this time, because if you do that, it will basically put 0 in this instance between 8 and 10, which is not what we want. We just want for Sunday between 8 and 10 to be 0 and nothing else. So we're going to save. We're going to do this for all the remaining time slots. And we're going to save that. And we're going to save that. So now we're happy. Our site doesn't have any capacity scheduled or listed for Sunday. So we can go back and show all scheduled days.
Question. What is the active and no column? I see some days, some columns, some have no, especially on Saturday, you had a mix.
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I should have explained that earlier on, explaining the fields. So basically the active column just shows whether or not that specific day is scheduling or has capacity listed. So as you can see here, from Monday through Saturday, it says yes, because we do have capacity populated there. And for Sunday, it says no, because we said our site is not open on Sunday, so it's 0. Hence, the active column there says no.
Okay, but what about like when the site is open in the morning and it's closed in the afternoon? I saw there was a mix of yes and no's.
Okay, well let's go into that. That just means that specific time slot is not active. So that specific time slot doesn't have any capacity populated there. So the site is open for the day, but it's only active between the time slots of 8 and 12. Then for the rest of the day, it is not active. It does not have any capacity populated. Hence the column says no there.
Okay, so does that mean that if I want to see on my template if my site is open or closed, then I should just look at the active column?
The active column will tell you if there's capacity, or if there's capacity listed for that time slot. So if there isn't, that means that the site is not active during that time. So that is a good indicator for when a site is actually actively scheduling and vaccinating during that time.
Okay, so it corresponds with my opening and closing hours.
In this instance, yes, it does. Unless one of the colleagues has a different view.
Cool.
So we're gonna go back here. Are there any other questions? I'm gonna pause for questions before we proceed to do anything else.
Hi, Karaba. I just have a quick question. So let's say you have set up your template and you have begun the process. You're in, for example, week 7 of your program, and for unforeseen circumstances, you have to pause the rollout, your program. This might be because of a temporary or permanent closure of the site. Is there a way to do that, or are we going to be viewing that later on in the presentation?
There is a way to do that, and as you're saying, that will be covered later on by Kumal during the rest of the presentation. But there is a way to deal with that, and it will be covered in great detail as we proceed with the presentation.
Thanks, Trevor.
Are there any further questions? In that case, we're gonna go ahead and finish the rest of the scheduling. So once you have inputted all your information and you're happy with the capacity list shown here, and you're confident that it reflects what will happen on the ground when people do show up, then you can go ahead and approve this template. So you'll scroll all the way down to the bottom here, and there's an approve button. You're gonna click on that button, and when you do, there'll be a pop-up that asks you if you're sure that you want to activate this template. Please keep in mind that when you do approve a template, you cannot make changes to it for the next 7 days. So that means that if anything that you've input in there will not be changed until the next cycle sort of kicks in. So, but if an unfortunate circumstance does happen that you cannot vaccinate people, there is a way to deal with that. But do be sure that when please do be sure that when you do approve your schedule, everything that you've input there is correct and is stamped in reality, because it'll be unfortunate if you've listed a capacity that you cannot handle on your template. So once you're happy with that, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna click on OK. And once you click on OK, the template will be live and the system will start scheduling people for you. So now what we're gonna do is switch back to the PowerPoint presentation so that Kamal can take us through the rest of the presentation. He will show you how to pause and unpause sessions, and as well as things as the SMS functionality and all of that. Kamal?
Okay, I'm going to split the screen now.
Kamal, you're a bit soft there. You're coming in a bit faint.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sure. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
It's not up yet, but
sorry about the technical difficulties.
Your screen is up.
Sorry, Kamal, it's the times we live in. Everyone is making use of the same bandwidth to get their work done. So
Agreed.
just the way of it. Your screen is now up. You can go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for that. Okay. Thanks Karabo for taking us to the demo. So the next few slides will basically talk to you about how to review your live schedules. Proceed to the next slide. Okay. This slide talks to you on how you can review your live schedule, as well as how you can navigate. Okay. To review your live schedule in details of
Kamal, just before you kick off, so this was the last screen, if I'm not mistaken, that that was up after Karabo had clicked approve. Am I right?
That is correct.
Okay, and the next few slides that you're going to take us through those are going to be screenshots of of what you would see in the scheduling system, right? What the scheduling administrator would be able to see.
No, that is correct. Apologies for that, because the demo instance does not allow us to go past a few of the functionalities of the scheduling system. So the next few slides will be screenshots of the actual scheduling system.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Fungai. Okay, just going to repeat that. So this slide basically talks to how to navigate your live schedule. So after you have approved your scheduling template, you're basically able to review your live schedule, as well as the details of past and future scheduled vaccinees booked to your site. And this is basically going to follow the various prompts that we have on the slide. Sorry. So number one, let me just get my pointer up.
Just to clarify, the vaccinees is essentially people coming in to be vaccinated. So sometimes they'll be referred to as vaccinees or individuals or patients or clients, but essentially we're referring to the same thing. That just means the person who's coming to get vaccinated.
That is correct, 100%, Fungai. Sure. Okay, so I'm going to highlight to you the various prompts. So the first prompt basically talks to the ability to view who is currently scheduled and details of past or scheduled appointments. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on the menu button. As you can see, it's highlighted in this green box. So there'll be an icon with the menu button on top there. So once you click onto that, going on to the next slide. Okay, basically you're going to have to go back to your scheduling before your scheduling template, sorry. And then we're going to navigate through that. So you're going to go again and select the scheduling module. Okay, so once you select that, you're going to select the National Vaccine Rollout Program. And once you select that, we're going to go on to the next slide. Okay, once we're here, please make sure that you're on the correct facility, and you're going to basically click refresh. Make sure that your facility does come up. For this example, it's Vaccinate Baragwanath Hospital. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go on to 4, you're going to click schedule. Okay. And once you click schedule, excuse me, it should bring up the available details of this relevant details, sorry, of the scheduling, as well as the time slots. Okay. And once you click through that, basically you'll get into this view, which is one with the scheduling and programming cascade part of it. And then you can see here for this example, you can see all the active schedules for Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. For this example, we'll take you for an example, the particular date. This is 2021 in May 13th. And this is the time slots between 10 to 12. And you can see here, for example, there's no allocation in this particular slot, and the max 2, and it does have capacity to vaccinate, and it is active, which shows it's true. Okay, I'll take you to this highlighted box here, just to explain this to you a bit. You can see the current allocation for the site is 6, okay, and max allocation is 19. So therefore, the slot has open capacity for more people or vaccinees to be scheduled at the particular time slot, so 10 to 12 on the particular date. And please note that it is indicated to be true, which shows that it has and available to vaccinate. Okay, so the has capacity value is true here as well. So this basically shows that the slot has not reached maximum capacity, and again has open capacity for more people to be scheduled in this particular time slot. And the active column, again, as I mentioned, is true, and it shows that it is open and more people will be allocated appointment at this particular time slot, and the vaccination site is open to administer more vaccinations. Okay, so if I remember correctly, that should be 13 slots available for this particular time slots available, and the system will allocate based on that.
Sorry, please clarify what you mean by 13 slots available.
Okay, so current allocation for the site is 6 in this particular time slot on the 16th of May, so 10 to 12. Okay, shows that current allocation allocated to this particular site by the system is 6. Max capacity for this site is 19. So there's currently, I guess, 13 available slots for vaccination.
Okay, when you say current allocation, do you mean that 6 people have been given an appointment to come at that time?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Hope that clarifies that. Okay, on to the next slide. Sorry, my technical difficulties is affecting my mouse as well. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to talk to you on how to open a detailed view of the scheduled vaccinees in a specific time slot. So if we click on number 1, so we're going to click on view in this particular time slot. So when we click on view, details of this particular time slot, we provided more information of the scheduled vaccinees for the time slot. Okay, so this will be the detailed view of the scheduled vaccinees in a specific time slot. So you can see here there's a specific vaccinee in the time slot. Okay, as well as the name, surname, the mobile number, and status. Okay, so let me just walk you through the highlighted sections here. So number 1. So once you are in the detail of a specific slot, as I mentioned here, for example, you'll see the names of the scheduled vaccinees allocated to that time slot, okay, as well as their mobile numbers, and excuse me, to facilitate further information if required, and as well as the status. So this is going to talk to number 1. So number 1 is where the scheduling administrator will be able to send all the vaccinees in a time slot, in a slot, sorry, an SMS, to either invite them earlier if there's capacity available, or to delay them if the site is behind schedule. Okay, and as well as, for example, if the site has delayed stock or if there's not enough vaccinators on site, the scheduling administrator will be able to send communication through this as well. Okay, now please note that not individual SMSs cannot be sent, and it will be sent to all the individuals in this particular time slot. Okay, to return to see all the scheduled slots, you're going to go back and click to show all scheduled times. So once you click onto the
Before
button,
you do that, I just have a question for you. So is this essentially how I view my a list of who exactly is scheduled with an appointment? So is this like a list of all of the people with an appointment at this time slot on this day?
yes, you'll be able to sheet, or you'll be able to your site at the particular time slot, as you can see here. For this instance, it's between 10 to 12.
Sure. So we lost you a little bit there in your explanation, but from what I gather, you're saying yes, this is essentially the view of who has been scheduled in this time slot.
That is correct. Yes. Sorry about that. As I mentioned, I apologize for that in advance.
All good. Thank you. So you were about to, I think you were about to take us back to that other view, I think.
Is correct. Yes. So we're going to go back to click to show all scheduled times. I'm going to proceed to the next slide. Okay. So this basically takes us back to the page. Okay. And then we'll basically able to see all the scheduled times here. So pausing an active time slot. So we'll talk a bit about that now. So active time slots that have not yet been filled to their maximum capacity can be paused to stop further allocation of vaccination appointments during that time. And we're going to take this example of here that's highlighted in the green box. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're just going to click pause. There's a pause button here, and what you'll see, the status turns to false. So this particular time slot will not actively schedule vaccinees or people to vaccinate at this particular time. Okay, so I'll take you through the highlighted points here again. So 1, to pause a time slot, you're going to click the pause. There'll be also an unpause here button, which will be discussed further later on. Okay, please note once paused, the active column changes to false, and there's no additional vaccinees that will be allocated appointments in this time slot. Okay, please note that the 6 people who already been scheduled will remain allocated to that time slot. So these 6 people that have been allocated this time slot will remain allocated to come to get vaccinated. Okay, to reactivate a time slot, you're going to click on the button again. It'll be unpause. Okay, and what will happen is the active status will change back to true. And once this happens, the scheduling system will resume allocation of additional vaccination appointments to that time slot. Okay. One thing I need to highlight. So once you click pause, sorry about that, there'll be a pop-up that will show schedule has been paused on the top right-hand corner. Okay.
Something else just to add is that in the current instance, that pause button is actually it's un in brackets and then pause. Just like that, the first instruction there by number 1 at the bottom of the screen. It's not just pause, and that's just because the site has undergone the system's undergone some development since the demo was created.
Thanks for that clarity, Wangai. Okay, proceed to the next slide. Okay, so this slide talks about the communication that is required to be sent to vaccinees in a recently paused or unpaused time slot. Okay, as we showed you earlier in the previous slides, you'll have the ability to send out SMS communication to various vaccinees or people that have been allocated to a particular time slot. Please note that the SMS, cannot be sent individuals, and it will be sent out to all those allocated in the time slot. So let's walk you through this example. Okay, so there are 6 people who have already been allocated to the recently paused time slot, and those 6 people will remain allocated to the time slot. So as a scheduling administrator, you'll be required to send them an SMS using the scheduling system to inform them that they can no longer be vaccinated at that time. Okay, so the administrator can also communicate with them to come earlier or later than the scheduled appointment if the site has capacity during other time slots to vaccinate them. Alternatively, if the site is closed or run out of vaccines in the time, the SMS can be sent to inform those vaccinees that it will be automatically rescheduled for new vaccination appointments by the Evds system, and the details of that new appointment will be sent to them by the Evds system. Okay, so if I show you number 2 over here, this is an example of an SMS message that will be sent out. And this particular example, you read through this SMS here that you typed here. It says, please note that we are unable to vaccinate you on the particular date. And it also mentions, please do not come to Chris Hani Bergnorth Hospital, as well as you receive a new scheduling SMS. Okay, so that's one example. We go further. Okay, so now we're going to view the site scheduling history. So this allows us the ability to view details of vaccinees or individuals who have been scheduled at a site, and we can click show schedule history. Okay, so we're going to go back.
Just before you move on, what happens if you wouldn't mind just going back? What happens if I can't accommodate people today, maybe because some of my vaccinators are sick or for whatever reason we maybe ran out of vaccines, but I know that tomorrow I can see from my template from my scheduling template that I have space and capacity. Can I invite these people that I cancel on today to come through tomorrow, or do I have to wait for them to be rescheduled by the system?
Sorry, Vinka, I think I lost you there a bit. Do you mind repeating the question?
Sure. My question was, if I have to cancel or pause my time slot today and essentially tell these 6 people that I can't accommodate them today for whatever reason, can I ask them to come, for instance, tomorrow if I know that I have space on my schedule because I can see that not all my slots are full, or do I have to do I have to wait for them to be reallocated or rather rescheduled by the system?
So there's 2 ways you can do that. You can wait for the system to reallocate them. Alternatively, if you do know that your site has capacity by viewing the cascade, you have the ability to basically send them an SMS to tell them that there is capacity tomorrow for them to come through. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Mingai. Okay. Just going to repeat the slide. Now we can view the site's schedule history. So we can view the details of vaccinees who were scheduled at a site. by clicking on the Show Schedule History on the scheduling system. So we click onto the Show Schedule History. Okay, so we can view the site's historical scheduling system and proceed to the next slide. Sorry, yeah. So when you click Show History, Show Schedule History, you'll have that ability to view the details of the vaccinees who have been scheduled at the site. So it'll take you to a view, and then you'll see, excuse me, all the vaccinees who have been vaccinated, as well as to see when they've been scheduled. Talk to how to review your program cascade or your site summary. Okay, so this slide talks to how to navigate the site's program cascade or site vaccination summary. Okay, so as one, so step one is you're going to click the menu button on the scheduling system, which is positioned on the left hand side. Okay, once you select the menu button, please make sure that the current role is scheduling administrator, as well as the role location, as well as your vaccination facility are correct. Okay, then you're going to select 2, which is not the
Kamal, I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but you seem to have went on mute there for a moment.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Was it just me or Wangai, Jamie, did you guys have the same problem as well?
Yes, Scrubber was having a similar problem. Kamal, if you could maybe just speak a bit louder and closer to the mic. Thank you.
And just go back a few steps, because I feel like most of the things that you're doing there might have been missed. No, so you're on the same slide, but like just start from the beginning on the same slide.
Sure. Apologies for that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I moved the mic closer to my mouth. Okay, so we're going to review the site's program cascade. Okay, as I mentioned, make sure that you selected the correct program, so the National Vaccine Rollout, as well as you selected the correct facility. This instance is Chris Hani Paragraph Hospital. Once you selected the correct facility, please click on the refresh button. Okay, once you click the refresh button, this should bring up a summary view of the program cascade of your vaccination site. Okay, so this will be the summary view over here. You can still see my screen. You can still hear me. Okay, this basically show the program name, the facility. In this instance, it's Chris Hani Paragraph Hospital. It'll show your MFL code, the vaccination site, which is true, which shows that the site is vaccinating. It shows you the total. So the total is the number of registered vaccinees allocated or matched to your site. Code sent. So this is the number of vaccinees who have received the vaccination code from the Evds system. Redeemed. So these are the number of vaccinees who have already been vaccinated and they've redeemed their vaccination code at site. Not redeemed in this instance is 93. Okay. It shows the number of registered vaccinees who have received the vaccination code but have not yet been vaccinated. Okay. This column here shows the scheduled first dose. The scheduled first dose is the number of registered vaccinees who have been scheduled at your site to receive the vaccinations, and they have their appointment. Go into this column, not yet scheduled first dose. So not yet scheduled first dose is the number of registered vaccinees who have not been scheduled at your site to receive the vaccinations. For example, they have not yet have an appointment. Active for scheduling is true, and this indicates that the site is administrating vaccinations. If it is false, it indicates that the site is not yet administrating vaccinations. And schedule approved, so this indicates that the site's scheduling template has been completed and approved and allows the ability to allocate appointments to registered vaccinees. We can change to the next slide. Okay, so this is an example of a program cascade, as I mentioned previously. So this will be the program cascade over here. And this basically provides us with a report view and confirms the vaccination program, your facility, the total number of people registered. Okay, of the 93 who have registered, 93 have received their codes, shows the code sent. 40 have redeemed their vaccination codes or have been vaccinated at the site. And there are currently 53 people or vaccinees who are scheduled to receive their first dose. Okay. Proceed to the next slide. Before I continue, are there any questions on the program cascade?
If you wouldn't mind, maybe Kamal, just going back, I wanted to add one thing.
Sure. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, if you please go back one more.
This one.
Right. So under that total number there, let's say your if the total number is in this example, it's 93, and the not redeemed is 93. So that means that there's 93 people who, everyone who's been allocated hasn't yet come through for a vaccine. However, scheduled first dose means that they have been given appointments and they should be coming in the coming days. If, for instance, that redeemed number was 93, then that would mean that in your area, if there was 93 people who'd signed up to be vaccinated, and you'd vaccinated all 93, then it means that you've essentially run out of people to vaccinate in your area, and that might mean that your site radius in terms of the catchment area and the people who are allocated to it needs to be increased. And that's something that happens on the back end system, and that's done by the provincial scheduler, so that it could try and allocate people who are further away from your site to your site if you've essentially managed to vaccinate everyone who'd signed up. Another thing as well is it could indicate that people in your area are not signing up to vaccinate, so that might require the site to be creative about encouraging people to register for vaccinations, or encouraging people to come through to the site as walk-ins and be registered on site to be vaccinated. And that would essentially be community mobilization, etc., through various channels, and through various channels like social media, or making use of community WhatsApp groups, etc., to really encourage the people who haven't yet signed up to be vaccinated to come through and be vaccinated. So don't be alarmed if the total number is the same as the redeemed number. That simply just means that you've run out of people to vaccinate for that time. And then, of course, this also happens when you have the limited age cohort. So at the moment, the 18 plus is not opened up, so you could have already vaccinated everyone who's 35 and over who signed up, in which case when the 18 plus would open on the 1st of September, then you'll probably see that number increase again, and you have more people allocated and eligible to come through. That's all I wanted to add. Thanks, Kamal.
Thanks, Vangai. Okay, go back to this one. Okay. So if you haven't received
Kamal, we've lost you again.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I'm really having some technical difficulties. My apologies for that. Okay, so the next few slides is basically going to show how to request access to the scheduling system, and I'll walk you through how you can go about filling the form and where you can access the form. Okay. Okay, so this is basically the following process that should be followed when requesting access to the scheduling system. Okay, so the scheduling administrator must download the SOP 002 scheduling registration access form from the His Support channel, which I'll take you through now. There's the link below, and complete it with your correct details. Please make sure you view it and the details are correct. and then send it to your respective Evds scheduling stream, provincial or private lead, which will be shown in the next slide. Okay. The stream lead will then need to validate the user request form completed by the user. Then the Evds scheduling stream provincial or private lead will submit the form to sop@health.gov.za on behalf of the scheduling administrator. Once the application is reviewed, the user access profile is then created. You'll then receive credentials via SMS to the scheduling administrator on the number that you have submitted in the user access application form. This process takes 2 to 5 days once submitted by the stream lead. If the information submitted in the application form is incorrect or incomplete, the user account will not be created and the application will be ignored. Please double check the details you complete in the form and follow up with the stream lead if you have not received access after 5 days of submitting to your stream lead. Okay, so this table in the bottom explains to you a bit more. This is the role. So the role will be a scheduling administrator as a user. The access control form that you will have to fill in is the SOP 002 scheduling registration access control form and submit to, so this will be the channel for submission. So the stream lead, once you submit it to them, will send this to sop@health.gov.za and with the following subject line: scheduling administrator account creation, the province you're in, or the district name, or the private sector group name. Okay, give me a second. I'm just going to access the his support channel. Give me a sec. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The his support channel. As you
Kamal?
We've lost you, Kamal.
No.
Come again?
Hi guys, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay. And then you're just going to look through the attachments. So we're going to look for scheduling administrator. Okay, there's scheduling administrator there. Let's just double check that. Click on it. Okay, then it will download. Give it a sec. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the access control form for scheduling administrator, and I'm just going to walk you through it. If I zoom out a bit, okay, so you're going to see here, these are the various fields that you're going to have to fill in. So just please go through the details and make sure that the correct details are filled in. So what you're going to do is you're going to capture the system access fields. For example, your name. This instance, right, let's enable editing. My name is Paul. Sorry about that. Okay. If you don't have a middle name, if you have a middle name, you can fill that in. You fill in your last name. And it's Singh. Then you're going to add your identification number. Okay. Sorry, that should be an identification ID, right? You're going to put your SAID. And the bottom one will be the identification number. So what you can do is you can also format this. Okay, remove that. Okay. Then please make sure that you input the correct format of your mobile number. In this instance, it starts with +27. So I'm going to put +27. Put in your mobile number, not mobile number, sorry. Okay. Then you can put in your email address. Put in mine. Okay. The name of organization or provincial department where you're employed. This has to make sure this is correct. So in my instance, it will be NDOH. Okay. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to basically go on to the line 25, which is access profile 6, admin functions. This is part of the scheduling administration. So you specify that. And when you're specifying that, please specify your province, your district, as well as the facility MFL code, if there is one. Okay. And once you have completed this form and verified all the checks, you're going to send it to your relevant stream lead, which I'll take you through now on the next slide. Sorry, can you still see my screen, right? Sorry, guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can see your screen, Kamal.
Sorry about that, just double checking. Okay, so this slide talks about the scheduling system user access and how you can request access from the various stream leads. So this top part talks about the private sectors and the various stream leads in that perspective, and the government, provincial, provinces, and the stream leads, along with their email addresses, who you can send through the SOP document once you have clarified all the information is correct. Okay, take you to the next slide. So support content to be provided and is available in his support channel as well. Okay, so training collateral and details on where to access can follow up on support. So please note the following support content will be provided to aid with the scheduling template completion. Please refer to these guides first. It's very important to note that for any follow-up questions, you may have to therefore reach out to the his support email, as well as to reach out to the service desk. Okay, so the support content that will be provided is a scheduling module training guide that can be found on the his support channel, the scheduling demo video URL, so it takes you through basically a short demo on how you can go about setting up your template, as well as viewing a cascade. The third one is log an email request for assistance to his support at health.gov.za. Okay. Please note, once a query is logged, the recipient automatically receives a ticket number from the his support mailbox that you can use to track the status of your query. If you do not automatically receive a ticket number after sending your query, then double check that you have submitted to the correct email address and that your organization has not blocked emails to his support server. The fourth one is a cheat sheet and a frequently asked questions document. So frequently asked question document will be on previous sessions and questions that have been brought up with regards to the scheduling administrator training and various other questions. The fifth one, as I mentioned, is access to live help desk support. So you're able to contact this number over here, 080-001-4500, for assistance with completing your scheduling template, or if you want to clarify something from the training manual or cheat sheet or the demo video. And the sixth one is for any assistance or follow-up with the user access credentials, please reach out to your stream lead to whom you submitted user access forms. You can refer to the previous slides for the process for applying for the scheduling access, as well as a list of stream leads. Okay. And what I've done here is just added the training quiz and evaluation links, so you can refer to below. Please note that the scheduling training quiz is not graded and is used just to get an understanding of your knowledge as a scheduling administrator. And the second part is the scheduling training evaluation URL, just to get an understanding and feedback provided from this training video. Okay. And I'm going to go into the next slide. Just going to ask the audience, are there any questions? Karabo, please alert me to any questions on the chat or if you see any hands up.
No hands or anything in the chat.
Sure, thanks for that, Karabo. So that brings us to an end of the session. Please note there's an appendix, so I'll just take you through that quickly. So the appendix takes you through the site go live process and steps to complete ahead of the site go live for a particular site. And this is basically a summary of that. You can go through that to the document, through the training module that's found in his support, as well as the key roles for completion of the go live process. And this basically informs you of the various roles needed to fulfill on which step as well. This can be found in his support channel. Okay, support for Site Go Live. So these are the various key contacts for Site Go Live. So if you want to request or log a request for Site Go Live, you can do that through this link over here, through the his support channel. If you need other help with other issues, you can email the respective email addresses over here. So for MFL support and on-site Evds support, you can contact his support at health.gov.za directly. For site activation and scheduling administrator access support, please use the email address and contact through sop@health.gov.za. There's also a help desk number over here, as I mentioned before. Just take you through that again. It's 080-001-4500. Okay. And if you require Section 22A15 permit support, please email ndohpermit@health.gov.za. And if you have any training requests that you may have just to facilitate, or if you have any questions, you can email training-schedule@health.gov.za. Okay, and then the further information required for SVS setup can be found below. And then access to various training materials can be found on this link below through the his support channel that I've just shown you, on where you can access the access control forms. And if you need access to the help guide, so this can be found through the evds.health.gov.za site. Okay, so this slide talks about the support contacts, and this is basically contacts for various escalation requests, and this is based per area. Okay, so one is area-based planning and site selection. You can reach out to Goran Tana. Second one is facility registration and site creation. You can reach out to either Pietro or Marion. The third one is SVS loading and implementation. This can be, you can reach out to Sitimbele Chara. The fourth one is EVDS implementation. You can reach out to either Kevin Nika, Cyprian Lucas, or PF Hub. The fifth one is supply of vaccine. You can reach out to Rob Botha. And any training requests that you may have, you can reach out to Harsha Desai through this channel, training-schedule@health.gov.za. So that brings us an end to our scheduling administrator training. I thank you all very much for joining the session, and I hope this really helps you in setting up your template, as well as to get an understanding of the scheduling administrator and what your role is in this whole process. I thank you all so much. Just hand it over if there's any other further questions, or if anyone wants to say anything before I close off the session.
From my side, Kamal and Karoba, I just want to thank you for the session. It was very intuitive, and you definitely outlined the process very succinctly. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jamie. So thank you all again so much. And should you have any queries, please feel free to reach out on those various support emails that I've just shown you. And thank you all.